Hey besties, it's Nat or Newt or whatever, who cares? Welcome back to another long Animal Crossing speed build. Today, we are going to be working on this beautiful bay area behind me. For those of you who don't already know, my island Nautilus is a New England themed island based on where I grew up in Maine. And if there's one thing that Maine is known for, it's its lighthouses, particularly this lighthouse, which is the Bass Harbor Headlight, aka the most photographed lighthouse in the world. Now, I have been to this lighthouse, not to dox myself or anything, I have visited it. It's fun. There's a lot of people taking pictures, obviously. Sometimes you see seals swimming around, which is cute. But I figured if I put the most photographed lighthouse in the world on my island, first of all, it would be very on theme, but I would also be putting myself on track to have the most photographed Animal Crossing island, because clearly this lighthouse is attracting the people. I also wanted to make this space more inviting for pictures and for exploration, so we're gonna have a road going sort of up the mountains and into the forest. It's gonna be great, besties, you're gonna love it. And as you can see by the length of this video, this build was really hard. It took me a really long time, but you're gonna get to see my process, my incredibly messy creative process, and how I do things. So I highly advise you grab yourself a snack, please grab something to drink, and let's jump right into it. But actually, before we do that, let's do a little more research on Colin Crossing's beautiful island of Moon. This is the dream address right here. I highly recommend you come visit this island. It's decorated for winter right now. This area of his island has been a huge inspiration for me ever since he posted his original fall dream address of Moon. I absolutely adore it. I think it looks beautiful and stunning. I'm just obsessed with the depth of the views looking over the cliff and the intrigue that the diagonal road creates. I love it. I'm so hyped that I finally get to recreate this area on my own island. So shout out to Colin for the incredible inspo. And now we're jumping in to my own build. This first part of the video is just going to be me cleaning up this area on my island. This was my initial attempt at a lake, and it just didn't go the way that I wanted to. I ended up actually building a lake that is to the right of this build, which you can see. I built in a different video, link in the card, besties. But don't go watch that right now. Go watch this, and then go watch that. Because, you can't just leave CJ alone like that. That would be mean. I actually had a lot of fun hanging out with him on the initial day that I started building this. He's so cute. I did do his Sea Sports challenge. Actually, at some point during this, I got so frustrated with the build itself that I just completely stopped building entirely, and I took my Switch out of the dock and I climbed into bed and I just went fishing. I skipped ahead a day. Obviously, I did a lot of time traveling with this because I built 4 inclines and a bridge, one of which I didn't even record. So yeah, that's how this build went for me, besties. But I time traveled ahead a day and it was raining and I just went fishing for coelacanth and I had a great time. And then I sold them to CJ and I made some money. And that was really satisfying for me. All right, here we are, besties, placing down the beginning of the road. Now, as you already know, I was majorly inspired by Colin Crossing with this build, and he makes some incredible road codes. I mean, if you've been around in the custom design online Animal Crossing scene, besties, you've seen Colin Crossing's road codes. They are amazing. I actually still use his sidewalk code. Ooh, here I was checking out my lake. Like I said, shout out to my lake. I think I was checking that to make sure that the 2 different builds flowed into each other nicely, and just for the spacing of the road. But the road that I'm using today, besties, is from Origo Alley, another amazing creator in the community. Just like Colin, you have probably seen their road codes everywhere. They are beautiful, and I took advantage of their really sleek, sharp, diagonal road codes in this build to pull off the look that I was going for with this road. They actually released a new road code recently that I really, really like, with a lighter pavement, but unfortunately for me, it's 4 tiles wide instead of 3 tiles wide. So unless they release a different version of it, I won't be able to use it on my island because all of my roads are designed to be 3 wide and not 4. But it's really gorgeous, and I highly recommend checking it out if you have space on your island for that. Ooh. That's the beginning of the pond. The pond was a problem, okay? You know what? Let me put up a picture of my map so I can better explain what's going on here. So I want my rivers to be connected. I have a left river and a bottom river. Everyone has a bottom river, but I have a left-facing river, and I want them to connect. Currently, on the first level of my island, where most of my rivers are, there's no way for them to connect. And as you know by the fact that I've shown it several times in this video, I have a lake to the right of this area of the build, and then on the left side, of course, is my huge bay. So obviously that's the best place for them to connect. So all the river has to do is come up the mountain and then go back down the mountain, and then it will be connected. And I also thought, this is a great opportunity to spice up my diagonal road concept that I have going on by having a diagonal bridge. Now, when you hear diagonal bridge, now you know, besties, what I was going through, because I am working on a tiny cliff. I have very limited space for the water to go, and I'm building a diagonal bridge on top of that, and that means frustration. Now, when I tell you, besties, this bridge took me 2 days to figure out. That's why I had to quit and go hang out with CJ. And halfway through this video, I start wearing a fishing hat because I went fishing. Gone fishing, besties. Now I know how dads feel, because I really needed that. I really did. But eventually we do figure it out. The diagonal bridge, she is a serve. Absolutely love how she turned out. But she's going to take a minute, and you're going to see a little bit of that struggle. Not all of it, but some of it. Just like how for the rest of this video, you're going to see a lot of me checking things over and over again to see how they look from different angles, from different distances. I just really wanted to make sure this build looked good, especially in pictures. Because of course, if you visit my dream address when I finally update it, I want you to be able to come here and get beautiful shots of the island. And in order to do that, besties, we must take our angles into consideration. So that's what happens in a lot of this build. And just like me being indecisive, that's like my normal bit though, is indecisiveness. In the amount of time it took me to finish this build, I got 2 campsite villagers. You're gonna see one of them in the middle of this, but the other one was O'Hare. I got him on the day that I started this, much like CJ. So shout out to O'Hare, he's a cutie, and shout out to my roommate. She has O'Hare on her island. That's where I know him from. Okay, here was me experimenting with the original side pieces of the road that I have downloaded right now. I have these pieces specifically because I switched specifically to this road over Collins Road because I liked the tattered edges, and I started placing down light dirt paths underneath all of my roads so I could have like cracks coming out where there's like weeds growing and everything. I really liked that aesthetic, and I saw people using this road code to achieve that. Here I am moving a tree so I can actually have my rivers connect, because when I initially built this waterfall, I did not realize that the 2 parts of it don't connect because I am dumb. So we figured that out, besties, don't worry. But yes, I downloaded the tattered sort of edges on purpose, but as you will see later in the video, they also have a version that's like a straight line, and I downloaded that version as well, so I could achieve that straighter edged look to the build, if that makes sense. You'll see when it comes up, besties. It'll be great. And of course, the pond is starting to take shape once again now that I've fixed the waterfall debacle. But that, it looks like a little crab claw. That's appropriate for a New England themed island. You know what I'm gonna do after this, besties? This build really drained the essence out of me, okay? I am so exhausted. I am gonna do a beach decorating video as my next video. The beach to the left of this build, in fact, I have an idea for it, and it's not gonna be nearly as time consuming and horrible as this build was to complete. I say that with love, of course, because I love doing builds and especially turning them into speed builds. But this build in particular really tested me emotionally, physically, mentally, geometrically, as you can see. But yeah, the next build's gonna be an easy one. We're gonna decorate the beaches. I'm gonna make an entire playlist that's just beach decorating videos, besties. I have so many ideas, and I can't wait to show them to you all. Because I know for a lot of people, decorating the beaches is a struggle, and it's not that it's not a struggle for me, besties. It's just, I got some ideas going in the old noggin up here. Of course, that does unfortunately mean the destruction of Maddie's gorgeous private island. She was fun while it lasted. Hi, CJ. It was fun while it lasted, but it cannot remain. Just like everything on my island, it never stays, to be honest, besties. It really, don't rely on anything on my island to stay. Except, of course, for my villagers. I love them all, and I'm never allowing them to leave. But yeah, I have an idea for Maddie's house, okay, besties? And it's gonna be great. You're all gonna love it. Maddie's gonna love it. It's perfect for her. Ooh, we're working on the lighthouse now. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I must say the description. Oh my god. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned how this is based off of a real lighthouse that I have been to before, and this is going to be that area of the build. So I wanted to focus on the pine trees. There's a lot of pine trees in this video, or cedar trees, I guess. I wanted to have a focus on that. I also added the lupins. I wanted there to be lots of rocks, and I wanted the lighthouse to like sort of be up. So that's the concept we're going for here, is a lighthouse on rocks. Revolutionary, I know. Also, just so you know, if you see a balloon in my video, I did pop it. Even if I cut it out for time or pacing or whatever, I do pop all the balloons that I see while I'm building because I have a compulsion, and I can't not do that. So there we go. Oh, that was me checking to see how much of the lighthouse and the land you could see from that side of the beach. Once again, this video is all about checking your angles, besties. You gotta get your angles right, or else your perspective builds aren't gonna work. That's something I learned the hard way with that original lake build that I did, and a lot of the earlier builds on my island. But for the most part, it just takes practice and like getting used to stuff. Here I am putting down the light dirt path underneath this road. I didn't actually end up doing anything fancy with any weeds growing or anything like that. I just wanted to have it for consistency, and so that when you look at my map, you can see where the road is located. Something that is actually kind of funny to me is the fact that I am inspired by Colin's build, and this build on my island is in the same spot as his build on his island. That was not intentional at all. That was just a coincidence. But it is fortunate because I was able to look at his map and see exactly how much space it took up and be like, oh, I can do that. I have room for that. Once again, shout out to Colin. Ooh, we're about to start working on the pond, the evil pond. Boo, terrible. I'm honestly so glad that CJ was here for me while I was doing this. Even though at the time it was kind of annoying how he kept walking exactly where I needed to build, it was just like nice to have someone there. And honestly, same goes for like my mods, my real life mods, not just this virtual otter. Shout out to my mods. Love y'all for helping me make it through the end of this build and encouraging me in my final hours where I was worrying about little tiny decorations and not knowing what to do and not knowing what to place. Shout out to them. At the end of this build, you're really going to see their influence. They were really the ones carrying me through this. Here I am expanding the cliff a little bit, and then we're going to cut to Tom Nook selling me a bridge that is going to take forever to place. Like I said, it literally took me 2 days to figure it out. Partially because I'm dumb, partially because it's hard. I had to look at like 3 different tutorials about how to do diagonal bridges, but we figured it out in the end, besties, and when I do, it looks great. But right now, it does not. You know what? While I figure this out, let me tell you a little story. First of all, the other day, I was walking to Dunkin' Donuts, as I am wont to do. Weather was nice. I was hanging out with my roommate, so I didn't have my headphones in. Normally, I do, but the one time that I don't have my headphones in, a bug flies into my ear, okay? First of all, that was so rude of that bug. Second of all, when I tell you I screamed, besties, I screamed. That's like a nightmare scenario right there. Like, why do I deserve that? I was already so tired from staying up late working on this stupid build, stupid bridge, and then a bug flies into my ear when I'm just trying to get my delicious juice from Dunkin' Donuts. Not sponsored, but like, please sponsor me. That would be the most iconic sponsor of all time. Anyways, that's my first story. My second story will really illustrate to you how tired I am. And it's the fact that I went to the grocery store and I got myself, my usual, I'm not a chef by any means. I'm not good at cooking. I eat a lot of sandwiches. It's very sad, besties, it is. This cliff was just the worst. I also, later on, I tried to place some other items on the cliff, like some trees and the cave item, which I'll explain that when I get there, but this was so annoying. Anyways, I went to the grocery store to get my usual things. I got some normal potato chips to eat with my sandwiches. And, as a treat for myself, I got myself some tortilla chips and some guacamole. Now, when I got home, I was like, okay, I don't actually want to make a sandwich, so I'm just going to eat the chips and guac right now as a snack, and then I'll eat a sandwich later. So, I grabbed the bag of chips, I grabbed the guac, I had put all my other groceries away, and I went to my desk and I started working, I started just munching. When I tell you, I sat at my desk and I spent 5 whole minutes mindlessly eating chips and guac, but thinking to myself, this tastes kind of funny. I was eating the guacamole with the potato chips, and I was so tired that I did not notice for 5 minutes. And I finally looked down and I was like, these are Lay's. What? If that doesn't tell you how tired I am, besties, I don't know what will. Oh my god. When I said that this project drained the essence out of me, I was not kidding. But I'm glad that I did it. It looks so amazing, and it has inspired me to work on other parts of my island. So, that's a win. And I get to make this fun video and talk to you guys and look back on the journey that I took. Here I was trying to finesse a normal bridge, like a non-diagonal bridge, but it was just not going to fit. I think this was around the point where Fishing Hat Nat arrives, where she comes into being, because I was just so sick of this, but taking a break definitely helped my mind, helped me reset a little bit. And even though this build is out late, sorry about that, I told myself I'd stop apologizing in my videos, so I'm gonna do it less. I'm gonna chill with the apologizing, but I'm glad that I let it cook, I let it simmer a little bit, because otherwise it would not have turned out as amazing as it did. But yeah, this is my last ditch effort. I was going to try and do the bridge on the second level, and then I don't have space for that. What am I thinking, besties? What are they thinking? I am glad that I finally got the diagonal bridge figured out, though, because the diagonal is sick, and I love it. And I feel like it makes the build sort of extra unique and interesting. Here I am, returning the wooden bridge to Tom Nook and replacing it with an incline. Like I said earlier, I actually lost the footage of me placing the second incline that goes below this incline. But I figured, once I placed one down, you guys sort of get the gist, right? I lined it up. Of course, unfortunately, the road is 3 tiles wide and the incline is only 2. But I think that I hid that discrepancy pretty well, and we fit 2 inclines in, which was my biggest concern with this build, besides the diagonal bridge, was fitting the inclines. I really wanted it to look like you could drive up the mountain, which is essentially what you do when you visit that area of Maine. There's lots of trails to drive along and roads to drive along. Now we're demolishing Bob's beautiful gas station. Rest in peace, Bob's gas station. You will be missed. I'm just kidding. Like I said, with Maddie's house, we're gonna relocate Bob slightly. Not really. He's gonna stay in pretty much the same area, and we're gonna rebuild that the gas station, because I think that the gas station concept is very cute and appropriate. But we had to move some stuff around. We had to adjust some things to get this build to fit. I think that this river following the road is actually really pretty, and I do miss the way that it looks. Like the pond is kind of awkward and chunky, because I had to make it such a specific shape to get the bridge to fit. But I do like how the bridge turned out. So that's something that actually went away, was that little river following the bridge. Though I guess I could have kept that and had more water. Now that I think about it, that honestly kind of would have been a serve. But you know what? I like the cave as well. I've seen people use the cave item as sort of rocks, or a rocky mountain or a boulder, as opposed to just a cave. They turn it around so you can't see the cave opening. And I actually wanted to try using it more during this build, but I didn't have enough stone to build enough caves. I didn't even know that the cave was a recipe and not a bot item until I looked it up. And then I also realized that I had the recipe, so I was like, oh, I can just make more caves. Wrong. I did not have the materials to be doing all of that. Just like how I did not have the intelligence to figure out how to build a bridge. If you want to know how to build a diagonal bridge on level 3 of a cliff, next to a cliff, on your Animal Crossing.com.net island, don't ask me, besties, because I don't know. Look up a tutorial from someone who actually knows how to play this game, and not me, because I could not tell you how I pulled this off. Like I said, it really truly took me multiple days to figure it out. And I honestly feel like I still don't have it fully figured out, because I kept trying to terraform this area around the cliff once I have the bridge in place, and I still couldn't quite get it right or like do all the things that I thought I could do. And if that does not describe the terraforming experience in this game, besties, then I don't know what does. Really, truly. I think that the initial placement of the bridge was a little too wide. Like, the bridge was too long and it wasn't enough road. It was too much bridge. So I pared it back a little bit. And I think it looked way better after I did that. It took so much adjusting, besties. You're seeing this. See, like, this is like a little too long, you know? Not enough road is happening. Plus, I ended up having to adjust the road anyway. But we got it in the end, besties, and like I said, it looks great. But this was definitely the most frustrating part of this build, along with terraforming the cliff directly below this. That also. Ooh, and the boats. We'll get to the boats in a minute, besties, but we'll get to the boats. But actually, in a couple of seconds, I am going to have an ad break for me, besties. And I'm also going to have a little surprise for you afterwards, so you better stick around. Surprise, besties! Marshall and Fuchsia were hanging out in the plaza looking super cute. Later on, Butch actually came and hung out with them, which was extra cute. Like, 2 old people and like a young sassy Marshall hanging out. For those of you who don't know, on my island, there's like a little bit of a love square happening. I talk about this in so many videos, but it's because it's, you know, it's the drama the girlies want to know, between Marshall, Coco, Genji, and Fuchsia. Right now, Fuchsia is dating Coco. She's not really part of the square. It's more of a love triangle, and Fuchsia makes it a square because she just likes Coco. She has no interest in Marshall or Genji. They're too immature for her. But yeah, it was nice seeing them hang out, you know? If Marshall can become friends with Coco, then I think he can do anything, including becoming friends with Fuchsia, and that's really beautiful. Here I have just jumped down to the lighthouse portion of the build. The lighthouse is going to go up on the second level on that little jutting out portion. I was expanding this, I think. I just wanted to be able to have some trees and some flowers and just have it look like really regal and grand, like the most photographed lighthouse in the world deserves. And also just to like really draw your eye to it and let you know, like, oh, this is a place to stop and take a picture, besties, on Nautilus. Very important spot. Ooh, speaking of Nautiluses, when I was editing this, not filming, but like editing the footage before I started recording this voiceover, as a form of entertainment, I was watching a video about the deep ocean, and I watched a section about mollusks and nautiluses, which are mollusks, I think that's what the video said. I don't quite remember. I like science, and I like natural sciences and biology. I just am bad at remembering things, besties. Ooh, this before. We'll talk about the Nautilus in a minute. But I am very clever, and there's like a piece missing there. 2 pieces, in fact, because each side has a different piece, of course, of a code of that road. But instead of using up 2 code slots to add that extra piece, I just put leaf piles over them to hide the part where it doesn't connect, because I'm a big brain genius. Preserve your codes, besties. You only have 100 of them. Remember when we had 50 codes? How did we live like that? Anyways, as I was saying, the Nautilus. Did you know that mollusca, or mollusks, are the second largest phylum of invertebrate animals after arthropods? With at least 85,000 known living species currently on Earth, including the Nautilus, which is the namesake of my island. Did you also know, besties, that the first species of Nautilus on record appeared 500 million years ago? He's old, besties. He's been around for a minute. I just thought that was a fun fact that I was learning about the Nautilus while I was working on Nautilus. Isn't that fun? Here I am working on the lighthouse. Now, once again, as we've discussed, perspective builds have always been a struggle for me. They still sort of elude me to this day, but I wanted to experiment with layering the trees, specifically stunted trees. For those of you who don't know, stunted trees are just when you stunt a tree's growth in a different stage than its fully grown stage to make it look shorter and sort of add levels to your island. You can do this by planting a fruit next to a tree, so it does not continue to grow. Here I am planting that fruit right now so that the tree no longer grows. And I just think it adds a lot of depth and makes the build look really, really nice. And I'm glad that I did it. I put the fully grown tree on the cliff above it. One, because having the fully grown tree directly in front of the lighthouse is sort of covering it up a little bit. And I just think that having them layered like that adds a lot of depth and intrigue. That's what we're going for, besties. Intrigue with this build. What am I even saying at this point? I actually used a lot of stunted trees in this build. That was another reason that it was taking me so long, is because I had to keep time traveling to get the trees to grow to the amount that I wanted them to. But I'm glad that I did, because it looks really great. And, you know, I use stunted trees all the time in Happy Home Paradise, but I'm super lazy about doing them on my own island just because of that fact. But I did it for this build, and you know what, this build deserves that. Here I am working on the road behind the bay. Now, this is another of my genius big brain ideas. When I was working on the initial road area, I noticed how there was such a clear view of that area, and it reminded me of a build that I had actually done on my island a long time ago, where I used the little fake camper van that you get from Pocket Camp, the Pocket Camp items. Shout out to Pocket Camp items, besties. If you don't know, there's a bunch of items that you can unlock just by connecting a Pocket Camp account to your Animal Crossing game. It's super easy to do. You can look it up. I don't actually play Pocket Camp. I played it for like a day and then I got bored and I stopped. But all you got to do is have an account. You don't have to have any type of, you know, anything done. You can just have a Pocket Camp account. Anyways, as I was saying, I had done a build like this before we got the 2.0 update, long before the 2.0 update, like a million years ago, using the little camper van items. Because at the time it was like a trend, because that's all you had. But now that we have real cars and I can place them down there, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to do like a view like that and finally get it right. It took me a ludicrously long amount of time to get it right, especially because I wanted that area to be accessible. That was the big thing holding me back, is that I liked the thinness of that stretch of land. Like, I liked how it was only 2 tiles wide, but the car is 2 tiles wide. So you can't actually walk through that area and get to the beach on the other side, which is a problem because that was the whole point of that area. But we figured it out in the end, besties. There was briefly a period where I considered having it just be a bike trail, similar to a lot of the trails in the national park that this area was based off of. A lot of them are bikes only, no cars allowed, besties. But eventually I did get a really clever way for the cars to work, and I'm quite pleased with how it came out. But I'm just adding some wheat fields. There's a lot of wheat fields in this build, besties. I just, you know, I had a lot of forest I had to fill out, and then I also really wanted there to be like grass growing by the side of the water. I just felt that made sense. Here we are using the campsite sign, another item that you get from Pocket Camp. I actually, speaking of campsites, I have a really great idea for the other side of the back of my island, but I imagine it will take at least as long as this build took me, if not longer. So that's not coming for a minute, but it's coming, and it will involve my campsite, so get excited. Oh, this was the part of the build where Butch was hanging out fishing with me. That was so fun. I love him. That's my dad right there. Love that guy. Ooh, that reminds me. I lately have been streaming City Folk, and it has been a blast and a half, besties. If y'all haven't been checking out the streams, there are VODs available in my streams playlist that you can watch. I guess I'll link it in the card. Sure, why not? If I don't, then I never said that. But I just remember that because Butch is on my town in City Folk, because I'm very lucky, obviously, to get to hang out with my dad in 2 different games. How fun. But yeah, I'm probably gonna stream City Folk again this week because like I said, I've been having a blast doing that, and I gotta check on the besties. You know, you gotta make sure the besties are okay. This was the portion where I realized that I needed to stop the diagonal and switch it back to a straight ahead road. Unfortunately, the main draw of this build, being Colin Crossing's diagonal road, didn't really come to fruition for me, just because I didn't have as much space as he had, and I couldn't do the super long diagonal that he has, especially because the bridge sort of interrupts it halfway through. But I got the basic gist of it, and I'm glad that I did get to do a little bit of a diagonal, just for the, you know, the views. And now that we have the diagonal camera, it just makes even more sense to do these like more fun, interesting shapes. Now I'm just adjusting the trees over here again because they were not cooperating the way that I needed them to. But another fun fact about this portion of the build is that I actually did a lot of the decorating off camera, and then came back and redid it on camera. Just because I was so tired. You know, there's some things where it's a pain to do them off camera and then come back and refilm it, like placing down a bridge. I wouldn't do that. But with the little decorations and planting flowers and things, those are things that I could, you know, if I'm stuck, like I said, I can take the Switch out of the dock. I can go cuddle up in bed with Yamper, and just experiment for a little while, and then when I have something I like, I can plug my Switch back in and film that and know that it looks okay. But I think in the end I ended up changing it anyways, just like a little bit. So, you know, it never stops changing, you know, besties. I think the only part of my island that I truly haven't really changed is the area in front of my my shopping district. But that's because it's perfect, and it doesn't need to change. I will actually discuss that area a little bit in the beach decorating series, just because I think it is one of my best beach areas that I've done, and I think it would be a good example of a beach idea, especially because it's like super cluttered and has lots of stuff going on. I think it's really fun and interesting. Here's the second to last incline of the video, besties. I am so glad that we have 10 inclines now. I didn't actually have that many inclines on my island when I was doing this project anyways, just because most of my island is flat and the villager houses are all on the first level, so it's not really something that I need. But I am glad that we have 10 now, because I used 4 of them in this one spot. I really wanted you to be able to imagine driving a car, riding a bike up or down the mountain. You know, one thing that was really clever about Colin's island is that he did the vines you could climb up, and then just made it look like a road that sort of goes off into the distance. He didn't actually worry about having it be accessible for a car, which is quite genius of him. But my stubbornness won out in the end, and I had to make it accessible to the cars. Speaking of cars, I did stop to catch that fish. It was a black bass, and I did throw it back into the water. But speaking of cars, if you guys hear more cars now during this portion of the speed build, it's because it's now 5 a.m. as opposed to 4 a.m. And that means that there will be more traffic outside of my house, of course, and people yelling, of course. Good morning, Atlanta. But this is exciting because now we're working on the boat. Now, the boat was the other big struggle point of this build, as I think I mentioned earlier. I'm not going to check, so if I didn't mention it earlier, just pretend that I did. But I wanted to create a little perspective where it looks like the boat is floating in the water. But of course, because it's Animal Crossing and we can't have nice things such as our villagers using the floaties that they could use in Happy Home Paradise, the boat can't actually go on the water. It has to go on land, which means I have to build a patch of land in the water. But of course, the water is at a lower level than the land, so the land sticks out and makes it look really obvious that the boat is not in the water. So I had to keep adjusting the location of the boat over and over again to be in a spot where you could look out into the water and see enough of the boat that it was obvious that it was a boat, but not so much of the boat that you could see that it was on land. And this took me a minute, as you can tell. I took advantage of the Mario pipe item to go back and forth between the beach and the area where you actually look out onto the water. That was super useful. I also had the issue of the fact that you can see the boat from the top of the cliff when you're looking out over the water, and I ended up downloading a water code. If you haven't seen, people have been doing these really beautiful water features on their islands, but instead of using the water tool provided by the game, they use a custom design that looks like water, so they can put items on it and put the boats and anchors and anything they want to, and it looks really beautiful. But I am stubborn, like I said, and I wanted to use the actual water so that I could have my rivers connect. So I just used a single tile of a water code, which I will have linked in the description, to sort of disguise what's going on with the boats. It's not the best, but I also was kind of stumped and didn't really know what else to do with that area, or with that conundrum. So if you have any ideas about how to make it look better, besties, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear, genuinely. If you have an idea, please let me know. Here we are working on the road leading up to this mountainous area. Once again, experimenting a little bit. I thought about doing a diagonal, but one thing that I knew I wanted to have was a bridge that sort of led you across the water area. As you can see, I have 2 boats placed right now, but those are going to move. That was something that I fiddled with off camera a ton because, oh my god, the back and forth with the boats is just too much. I just want you guys to see the basic idea of it so you could understand what I was doing over there. But the final boats you will see at the end of the video. But I wanted there to be sort of like a bridge between the estuary, which did unfortunately get a little bit demolished, but we kept most of it. I had to fidget with it a little bit, and I will fix it later. But I wanted there to be a bridge between that area and the larger body of water, but not like a bridge that you pay for, like more of a land bridge. And I just wanted it to be like a cute little lookout area for the boats. So that's what we're going to spend a minute working on. This was another sort of moment for myself where I had to be like, okay, you keep getting stuck with these stupid boats, work on something else. And I did work on something else, and I actually got stuff done. So there's a pro tip for you. If you get stuck working on one thing, stop working on it, work on something else. That's not super niche advice by any means, but it gets the job done, so can't complain about that. But this is my normal road technique that I mentioned earlier. I like having an actual path underneath the custom design road so you can see it on the map and see that it's a road that you're supposed to walk on. And also because your villagers know that it's a road and they'll walk on it too, which I think is really cute. But I place that underneath, and then I don't think that I did this in this build in particular, but I can use the sort of jagged edges of the road to create little breaks in the pavement and have weeds growing up in the dirt, and it looks really cool. I did it a little bit outside of my house, and I have it in other spots on my island. But right now, working on this fantastic little land bridge. I got to use the iron fencing, which I haven't used in forever on my island. I can't remember the last time I used it, but I recolored it to one of the new colors. I actually think I picked white, I think was the color that I went with, because it matches the little lookout binocular things, and I put those binoculars on the bridge, and I think it looks very, very cute. I also put a car, speaking of cars, there's cars driving around my house right now, but I also put a car at the end of the bridge, sort of by the Muscle Beach, the entrance to it, and I put a no lifeguard sign as well. You're going to see that in just a little bit when I am done adjusting this road here. This drives me absolutely nuts when the dividing lines don't line up with each other, and I normally my solution to that is to put a manhole cover. That manhole cover always works, besties. If you ever get stuck with the road lines, throw down a manhole cover. It'll save you in your time of need. And I'm expanding this little water area because I felt bad because I really like my estuary, and I just destroyed Bob's whole thing, and I destroyed part of Maddie's thing, and I didn't want to destroy all my estuary, so we're adjusting it a little just so that it fits with the area. But I think that it works really well to have like a sort of like the transition between freshwater and saltwater be in that area of my island. Like, it just makes sense, bestie. So I was customizing my fence because I already had some built, but it wasn't the right color. Here I am placing it down. It looks like a bridge. It's so cute. I love it. And honestly, I think it's gonna look even better when we move Maddie's house, and it's just like looking out over the ocean. It's almost like there's like a sandbar over there. Oh, that's gonna be so much fun. Oh, I just crafted the cave. That was a struggle and a half, bestie. I used all of the stone that I had to make that cave. I really should just like get on a treasure island and get some more resources, because I'm just playing this game on hard mode really at this point. Look at the views, bestie, the views. I'm glad that I changed where the boats were because they weren't working with the view from the top of the cliff, but this also looks really, really good. I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything, besties. I just think that, I did a pretty good job with this build. I think, personally, I kind of ate. No offense, but I did. And wow, look at that. Perfect timing. Right as I'm gassing myself up and we're about to have the second commercial break of this video. Thank you all for watching 40 minutes of me talk over a sped up build in Animal Crossing. You're a real one for that. And when we come back from this break, we're going to find out who my second campsite villager is. And would you look at that? It's Groucho. Adorable as ever. We took a selfie, of course. It was great. That donut in his hand is making me extremely hungry. But, you know, I can eat when I'm done being on my grind, besties. And we're back at it again with the final incline of this video. Of course, this one, instead of going straight on, wraps around and takes you to this road area behind the bay, which will then wrap around to the beach, of course. And then Lloyd trapped me and I had to use the rescue service, which was very embarrassing. Here we are placing down the cave, like I said earlier. I think, I honestly don't remember what me 30 minutes ago was up to, but I placed the cave down to make it look sort of like rocks forming a mountain. And when I do get enough stone to make more caves, I do intend to attempt to add more of them to this area. But for now, that's what we have, and she's cute. She's cutesy. Throwing down more wheat fields, of course. Really, it's giving estuary vibes. It's giving the space between salt and fresh water, besties. If you know, you know. I'm actually still sort of deciding like how many of my light green wheat fields I want to recolor to the dark green, because there's a lot of wheat fields in this video that I would recolor to the dark green now that I think about it. But at the time, I was like more concerned with getting the build done in a timely manner than recoloring them. So, you know, if any part of this build changes, it'll probably be that, to be honest. Speaking of new things for me to consider, I was experimenting with these evergreen ash trees for the first time, which was exciting. There was a helicopter flying over my house and it's still there and I'm very annoyed. But anyways, as I was saying, I haven't actually used any of the new plants yet besides the wheat field. I have them. I've used them in Happy Home Paradise before, but like all of the new fake trees that they added to sort of add more variety to the game, I really appreciate that they did that, especially for like people with western towns using all those cactuses. Incredible. Love that for y'all. Anyways, like I was saying, I really wanted to fill in the spaces on these cliffs with more flora. So I, of course, added a ton of flowers, added a ton of wheat fields, but I wanted something with height, and I wanted to give a little bit of variety from the two in-game trees, mostly the cedar tree, of course. So I experimented with the ash tree, and I think that it looks really nice. I kind of want to try the Japanese pine tree as well. I think that the spiky leaves on that would look really nice and fitting in the area, but we'll see. That's another area for experimentation for this build in the future. But for now, I do really like how the ash trees fill out the space. It just took me some getting used to in terms of decorating. Like, how many do I need? Where do I layer them? Like how do I fit them in? Because like they're 4 tiles wide, so they don't have the limitations that a tree has, but they also have their own limitations, which I had to get used to. I really also wanted to have a transportation stop. That's something that Colin used in his build, and I think that would be really appropriate for my build as well. You know, you take the bus up the mountain, besties, and go on a little trip. But yeah, we fit that in there. I also added more stunted trees, of course, just to have the levels, especially because, like I said, we're relying a lot on the pine trees, so I wanted there to be some variety with the trees, including the levels of them. This right here was the big struggle of the build. As you can see, that looks really cool and it's giving mountain. And I wanted to try placing the cave on the other side of the cliff near where the lighthouse is, but I could not get it to fit to save my life. I was like, I have to expand this one more to get this to fit, don't I? Especially because the river is the thing that's blocking me and I can't make the river any smaller than I already did. So I really didn't have a choice and I gave up. That was one of those things where I was like, I concede to the game. I'm not gonna fight the game anymore on this. I'll figure this out later. And I filled it in with flowers, and I think the flowers look really nice. I like how they sort of cascade down the cliff and like the bright purple popping out from all the green and like the neutral colors. I think it's really pretty. And I threw in some stone stools and some ruined seats, the new item that from the Vine set, the ruins set that came with the 2.0 update, just to make it look a little rockier and more barren. You know, I figure it's a cliff, you know, like the way that that plants work on mountains like this is that there's areas where, you know, a plant, it's just too inhospitable for like a big tree to grow, especially on like the edges of the mountains and things. So that, you know, it felt like it visually, I'm like, oh, this feels like a cliffside, I guess. You know, we are 45 minutes into this video and this is way less chaotic than most of my speed builds are, to be honest. Like, this is so relaxed. Like, I'm talking about the build, I'm talking about my inspirations, like, I'm being all serious. Like, what's gotten into me, besties? That's how you know that I'm absolutely gone, is that I'm being serious in a speed build. That's not me at all. That something's wrong. Something is amiss. Oh, I need to get some sleep after this, besties. I earned it. And you know what? You earned it too. It's only Tuesday when you're watching this. If you watch this a day that goes up, if not, and it just happens to be a Tuesday, then you lucked out. But I don't know how your week's been going, but I do know that you've been doing your best, and you deserve to be nice to yourself and give yourself a break. So, treat yourself kindly, besties. Or else I'll be mad at you. I'm just kidding. Or am I? Think about that, besties. Honestly, the best part about this part of the build is just Lloyd hanging out down there. He's so cute. I love him. I'm so glad they added gyroids back in the game. Also because the build that I'm working on, I have to start collecting gyroids soon, and I am not excited for that. Because every time I do it, I have to spend 1,000 Nook miles. Actually, you know what? I could just, like, farm rainy days instead and not worry about going to Cabin Islands. But, whatever way I get these gyroids, is the way that I'll get them, and we can do the build that I have planned, and I'm super excited for. Another inspo from Colin, obviously, was the street lamps. I didn't want them to be on the side with the views, though, just because I didn't want them to obstruct. That's a word right there for you. I didn't want them to obstruct the view, so I put them on the opposite side instead. I do like the way that they look on Collins Island a lot, and I am kind of sad that I didn't do them on the left side of the road. But at the same time, I also like the way that my build turned out, as you all know, because I've said it 1,000 times so far, but it's still true. And especially at night, besties, when the lights come on, when the lighthouse comes on, everything else shuts down. This build, ooh, she looks so good at night. I think I'm going to do the B-roll at night. Ooh, that's a little behind the curtain moment. I haven't filmed the B-roll yet. I was like, I gotta get this voiceover done. This is an hour long. This, I think, is my longest voiceover yet, perhaps. I've had a couple that are in, like, the 45-minute range, but 53 minutes just talking, oh my god, besties. That's the greatest challenge of all. I thought that the build was the hard part, but this is the hard part. Actually, that's not true. Talking is very easy for me. That's why I have a YouTube channel. Oh my god. Ooh, here's a fun detail. Obviously, there has to be a space in between the two inclines. They can't lead directly into each other. So I have to put something down on the ground there to sort of continue the road. But I don't have, like, the codes that sort of match the incline, and I didn't want to download them because that's just more codes that is taking up space. And the road code didn't really work either because it's supposed to be 3 wide instead of 2 wide. So I just planted some weeds down. And I think it looks really cute. So, shout out to planting some weeds down. Really works wonders, besties. Also, the Harv's Island Reds raffle items, which I never shut up about ever, but I'm right. They're cute and they add a lot of detail, and you should use them. We certainly use them in this build, as well as some bags from Kicks. Now that we have those little purses that you can carry, those look really cute when you put them on the ground. And we used a couple of them in this build just to look like, someone brought their lunch with them when they went on their little bike ride through the mountains, which I think is super cute. Here I am swapping out the stone stools with these ruined seats objects. I think that's what it's called. It's a silly name for the object, but I mean, if that's what she wants to be called, I'm not going to stop her. But I thought that the mossy rocks with the vines just brought a little bit extra detail that the stone stool couldn't give, unfortunately. Though I did also run out of the mossy covered stools, so I had to use the stone stools anyway. A little variety, not intended variety, but variety nonetheless. And they sort of mimic a guardrail that you would see driving up a mountain. Which I think, it really, she ties it together a little bit. And, bestie, sometimes that's just all you need. Something to tie a build together. Like a wheat field, for example. I actually didn't end up placing the wheat field there because it was just too tall. It was too tall, and it was messing with the vibes. And I ended up pushing the log bench back and just having the log bench. That worked way better. This whole final portion of the build was honestly one of the hardest parts, even though the bridge and getting the the boats to work was definitely the hardest part of the build. Getting the details right was also really frustrating. It just took me forever because it just, maybe it's my own like meticulousness, but there were just some things where I'm like, this just doesn't look right. Like something about it feels wrong, and I just had to change it, and I couldn't not change it. Like I just had to. And sometimes that can be a little detrimental because you're trying to complete an area, and you change one thing and then it cascades into changing a whole bunch of other things, and then by the time you're done changing things you can't even remember what it looked like when it started, and you get frustrated because you're like, oh, I like the way it was in the beginning, but I changed the way it was in the beginning. There's a Red's raffle item for you, besties, that book with the fish in it. Yeah, there you go. You're welcome. I know you're all waiting for it. But yeah, I had to tell myself, no, you're done, immediately done, you're done. And just wrap it up because we couldn't do this forever. I mean, I could, but I shouldn't because that's not going to help me. But at the same time, messing with the details also brought a lot of clarity, especially with the road in the back. I really didn't know what to do with that area because, like I said, I wanted it to be traversable, but the cars they were too thick. They were too thick for what I wanted to do, and I couldn't get it to work. And trying out new things and experimenting helped me figure out what I wanted in the end. Same with these trees. I thought I wanted this big tall tree, but I ended up going with like a much shorter tree to like play with perspective more. Hi, Maddie. Oh, she's so cute. We're gonna work on your house soon, bestie. Don't worry. I love when they hang out with me when I'm building. It makes me so happy, even though they're extremely annoying and when they get in the way. But they're cute when they're not in the way, so think about that. But yeah, like I said, I switched some things around. I changed the colors of the bikes so that they popped out more because, the lighthouse was this bright white color, and so was the bicycle, and then the car was white, and it was and the wind turbines and everything. Ooh, here it is raining. I wanted to get shots in the nighttime, but the day that I happened to be on, it happened to be raining. Ooh, do you see what's happening over there on the left? When I turn to look at the boat keeps disappearing. And I'm assuming it's because the object itself is so far away that it just disappears just by default. But if anyone knows like what's going on with that in like more detail and can let me know, please do, because I am so confused. But sometimes it will disappear, unfortunately. But sorry about that. There's nothing I can do, besties. The game is the way it is. When I was trying to film the final parts of this, when I tell you my game loaded for 10 minutes. I Googled it, and it was like, sometimes your game just does that. You should restart your Switch or something. It was so... Everything in the universe was against me when I was trying to do this build, besties. And you can see that by how long it took me to figure out these boats. But I did in the end. This is pretty much, I think, the final boat position. Here we are adjusting the road. Like I said earlier, I briefly switched it to a cycling road just to make it easier to traverse. And then I was like, you know what? I like having the road being right up against the water, but what if we add an area where you could hop instead of going by the car? So, you can have the car be next to the water, but then I can just have this little area with these flowers and with the wheat fields, and you can just hop right over. One thing I will say is there is one spot in the corner, in the top left corner of this little road area, where I would like to plant another flower at another wheat field just for like the height aspect. But for now, I really like how it looks. I think it's super duper cute. And yeah, we're at the end. Yay! Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for making it to the end of this incredibly long speed build. I know a lot of y'all watch these like when you're doing chores or when you're eating or when you're doing something else as just, someone to hang out with and hear me ramble. So I hope you all enjoyed my incredibly long ramble today. This build was such a labor of love, and I'm so happy with how it turned out. I'm really proud of myself that I finished this and that it looks as cool as it does. Shout out to Colin Crossing once again for the incredible inspo. If you liked this video, please give it a like. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you liked it a lot, you should definitely subscribe because I post Animal Crossing content here twice a week, bestie. My normal upload schedule is Wednesdays and Saturdays, but this week I'm going to be uploading on Thursday to make up for the weird schedule switcheroo that's going on with this video. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be starting the beach decorating series. Super excited for that. And I'm also going to keep streaming City Folk. So if you want to get notified every time that I go live, make sure you're subscribed and you hit the bell. Or if you're 16 or over, you can join my lovely Discord server, the Igloo, linked in the description, where you'll also get access to exclusive live streams and previews of upcoming videos. Okay, that's enough plugs. We're done. We're done with the plugs. Thank you so much again for watching. Hope you enjoyed this incredibly long video, and I hope to see you again on Thursday for an incredibly less long video. Bye.